2023, Saracens climbed back to the top of the English mountain. Roman Untermax scaled France's highest peak alone to win the top 14. And Eddie Jones picked a full World Cup squad solely comprised of wee little children. But in amongst the exclusion of Hooper and discard of Cooper, this was a year in which some rugby was played by some people. And in order to celebrate the best of that rugby, it's time for this, the Squidge Rugby Team of the Year. But before we do that, I think it's time to champion the guys and girls we couldn't do it all without. They wouldn't be playing that rugby without. And frankly, this year, the referee of the year is a pretty open and shut case. In 2023, Wayne Barnes called time on an incredible career, retiring as rugby's most capped referee, having, for my money, been the best in the world for most of his run. Whilst criticism of referees has hit an insane degree in the last few years, the facts of the matter are, if you watch any previous era back, even as recently as the 2015 World Cups and the years immediately afterwards, the standard to which we hold refereeing has increased enormously, as has the standard on show. Rucks are now actually policed across the board. Refs are so much quicker and more able and are spotting so many more law offences and are responding to the people on social media that complain about the smallest possible breakdown error. Throughout all of this, Wayne Barnes has remained the most consistent, reliable whistle in rugby. The best of the best. You can set your watch by him. Incredibly clear, precise, and such a good communicator. Every referee will have their own interpretation. That's why the game has laws, not rules. But no arbiter in the game's history has ever been so good at making sure both teams understand and are able to adapt to his or her version of the rules as Wayne Barnes. After his shot in 2019 was ruined by pesky England making the bloody final, in 2023 Wayne Barnes became the 9th person to ever referee a men's Rugby World Cup final, and it could not have been more deserved, nor could his performance have been much better. He was fantastic and took control of the most erratic and chaotic, from a law-breaking point of view, World Cup final ever played, and yet made sure both teams knew exactly what they were doing at every given moment. He was consistent, he was superb, and Ian Foster should shut up about it. For my money, Wayne Barnes is the best to ever do it, and went out on a total high this year as the 2023 Squidge Rugby Referee of the Year. Anyway, enough about that. It's time for the heartbeat of the team, the key cogs, the control box, the best halfbacks of 2023. There are numerous challenges to running this channel. Coming up with new names for the Irish fly half has been one. Watching the entire 1987 Rugby World Cup for a podcast was another. But quickly, the toughest part of this job is finding new ways to describe how and why Antoine Dupont is an absolutely exceptional rugby player. I feel genuinely lucky to be watching rugby whilst Antoine Dupont is playing. Having grown up on stories and little clips on DVDs of Gareth Edwards, the fabled best there ever was, whose complete skill set and unlikely power for a scrum half made him a game-breaking force who could win Wales of Six Nations on his own in the late 60s and 70s, I figured in the modern game that kind of play just wasn't possible. Teams are scoured, targeted, players get found out and attacked and have drop-offs in form and burn out. The abrasive and analytical nature makes it impossible to create a modern-day Sergar. And then Antoine Dupont came along. Antoine Dupont is magic. Like, he's a genuinely remarkable, incredible magician of a rugby player who can do literally anything in the game. Sometimes you just have to stop and look at him, just watch him, and feel how special it is to be watching him. You can make arguments for other scrum halves, sure, but really no one else could possibly have sat in this team. 2023 was supposed to be his crowning moment, the year he captained France to their first Rugby World Cup on home soil, and yet even with the one little setback, Dupont shone every match he played. Not happy to merely be the best attacking 9 in the world, in 2021 Dupont became arguably the best defensive 1 in the world too. 2022 he became arguably the best kicking scrum half out there as well, and now in 2023 he seems to have sawn off all rough edges and just become the perfect all-round rugby player. A year or two back, Cardiff legend and former Wales 9 Lloyd Williams was a novelty for the fact he could kick equally well off either foot. Now Antoine Dupont has taken that concept to the moon, able to pull things that you'd have thought genuinely impossible on a pitch as though they were nothing. There's no aspect of the game that could possibly benefit a scrum half that Dupont hasn't come at least 90% of the way to perfecting. There's no skill in the game that benefits a scrum half to have that Dupont isn't in the top 2 in the world for. In 2024, he now sets out to complement being the best 15s player in the world by becoming the best 7s player on the planet as well. And you know what? Not only do I expect him to do that, I feel lucky that I get the chance to watch him conquer that mountain as well in the year coming up. Every year, this team always has one shirt that we kind of simply can't decide really until the very last moment. And in 2023, the fly half shirt was a four-way battle between some men and women who truly excelled. The player formerly known as Jedward Sexpool, Six Nations form, had him in pole position for a long time. Someone at the age of 86 excelling as he led Ireland to a historic fourth ever Grand Slam and in a very solid World Cup. Black Ferns captain Rouet Demant was maybe the most consistent fly half of the year, constant attacking for a tactical metronome, every decision correct and every break capitalised upon. But then we have the wild card. For both halves of the Squidge Rugby deciding committee that we have, there was a clear best 10 in the 2023 Rugby World Cup's pool stage, and it was indeed someone who excelled earlier in the year as well, and that was Portugal's Jerónimo Porteia. Porteia is a gorgeous player to watch, balanced, controlling and yet desperately unpredictable. Aged just 22, his growth over the last year of playing Test rugby has been incredible and very much lines up with Portugal's own rise on the world stage, where he was a fun box of tricks at 10 a year or so ago. By the time he followed his father's footsteps at a World Cup, he had an all-round game and sublime rugby intellect that opened up Portugal's attack enormously, and yet he never overplayed. Porteia's always in such control of the game, no doubt learning a huge amount from veteran scrum half Samuel Marks. However, with the largest possible honourable mention to Porteia, at the end of the day, I think the fourth fly half from that contending quartet just about sneaks it after managing to propel his team to the greatest height, or at least really close to the greatest heights. We're talking about the All Blacks and Crusaders' first 5/8, Richie Mo'unga. In a nation that likes to proclaim and present their world-class talent for the world to applaud, the rise of Richie this year has been much more steady. Whilst he's been an exceptional 10 on the global stage for about 5 years now, I feel Mo'unga has never been better than he has been in 2023. For some time, it felt like the All Black system, combined with needing to share playmaking duties with the also exceptional Beauden Barrett, who also had a fantastic year, meant the thing Richie Mo'unga does best at Super Rugby level, which is kind of just taking a game by the scruff of the neck, just grabbing it and forcing it down until it comes out on his side, wasn't really happening at Test level in a way it perhaps could. Maybe the greatest club level fly half of arguably the modern era, reduced to merely a very good international player. In 2023, however, we saw Mo'unga find a very pronounced middle ground. No fly half in rugby union adds more value per touch than Richie Mo'unga. His tactical brain and box of tricks are up there with the best, but Mo'unga's USP is the way he can change a picture for a defence in a split second and adapt the tactic on the fly, or bring runners onto the ball in a manner that benefits them much more than a standard dropped pass. Attack coach Joe Schmidt's more precise systems were a big factor in the All Black resurgence this World Cup, but their effect was deepened by Mo'unga's ability to improvise and adapt off the back of them. Whether it's this touch for Aaron Smith's disallowed try, jamming on the cuff after some standard pattern play, soften the Springboks, or better yet, this from the quarter-final. Right as Ireland started to get back in the game, New Zealand set for their rehearsed play, but when Ireland read it, Mo'unga reads their read and throws the dummy instead of the pass, straight through and able to adapt with Will Jordan on his shoulder to put him over for a try that looks extremely simple, but exists because Richie Mo'unga is almost uniquely capable of simplifying the complicated and deepening the simple. Throw in a brilliant year of late-stage game management and composure, most notably some sublime goal kicking to seal both the Super Rugby final late on, as well as deny Australia a statement win that could have saved Eddie Jones' job and created momentum that could have ridden them through the World Cup. And it's been a quietly brilliant year for one of rugby's most subtly sublime fly halves. Honourable mentions time, let's do this. Beyond just the 10 we mentioned a moment ago, Finn Russell was brilliant this year. Such a great game management, kicking 10 alongside his usual mad frog routine. Andre Pollard and Manny the box shirt and the Springbok shirt counted against them both, but each had moments that made us just consider starting them anyway. Pollard in particular, pitch perfect in the semi and final. Likewise, Dan Biggett and Gareth Hanscom for Wales were each pretty much the best player on the pitch every minute they played during the World Cup. Huge part of Wales's post-Six Nations turnaround. Australia's Karis Dallinger has become one of the best attacking 10s in the world. She's got an unreal eye for a gap and a real range of distribution options. She's brilliant to watch. Roman Untermack missed the World Cup, which was a loss felt by the entire rugby community. We all mourned that day because the guy's form was world-beating beforehand, while Matthew Jalibert was superb when given the Les Bleus 10 shirt. Holly Aitchison slotted in at 10 for England beautifully, and Porteia wasn't alone, deserving mention for the Minnow Nations. Watching Namibia's Tian Swanepoel was a beautiful experience. His 90-metre boot a joy that helped carry the Velveetchers. Rodrigo Fernandez couldn't be a more different player, but was equally sensational for Chile as he took his superstar status global. A cheeky mention has to be given to Jason Petroz, whose remarkable burst of form for the New England Free Jacks saw them win the MLR title, and Filippo Echeverri for Uruguay, who really made that 10 shirt his own. Brilliant at coordinating and running attack, as well as slotting shithouse drop goals like this. But speaking of shithouse drop goals, we have to talk about England's dynamic triad. Owen Farrell was so good, as he always is, shut up at the back. Marcus Smith just keeps getting better and better as a properly rounded player these days, and if people disagree with you, you should look them in the eye, sit them down, and tell them, no, you're wrong. You're wrong. He's not just a silly running boy. He's an extremely good rugby player with a very, very good kicking game. I shan't be listening to you anymore. But above all of that, my boy George Ford was the best of the lot. His usual beautiful attack management tactics subsiding to become the prime game manager. A phenomenal performance against Argentina for the ages that helped define the Borthwick era going forward and propel England into a semi-final almost on his own. Oh, do you want scrum halves? Do you want scrum halves as well? Here's some scrum halves for you. How about Santiago Arata, DuPont Jr. for Uruguay, who was brilliant for country and club cast. Aaron Smith was near his best and would have been an incredibly worthy wearer of that 9 shirt if not for that bloody cuboid bastard. Simone Caravelli was a crucial metronome for Fiji, as was Samuel Marks for Portugal and Marcelo Torrealba for Chile. Pauline Bourdon-Saint-Just put her wife's retirement behind her to excel for France, while Kira Bevan was a real pace and difference maker for Wales. And Tate McDermott was quietly really good for the Wallabies this year. Fantastic throughout, if you ignore that implosion against Wales. James Gibson Park was such a live wire for Ireland, as was Mo Hunt for Gloucester Hartpury, and then later England with her big recall post-World Cup, whilst Gareth Davis' turnaround was remarkable. From career worst to career best form in a single year, as he began the year as third choice for his club and finished it maybe the third best scrum half in the World Cup, as well as the only competent player of the Scarlets. Whilst, once again, South Africa's team-first mentality kept their backs out of the team, as Faf de Klerk and Cobus Reinach were both brilliant, alternating and splitting roles in their climb to retaining the Rugby World Cup. Thank you for watching that. I hope you enjoyed it. That is part 3 of the ongoing Team of the Year. In past years, we've done them day by day. We're having a bit of trouble here. The moments the year took longer. Had a couple of other things go on as well in the meantime. It's all been a bit of a scramble last minute at the minute. So we're going to go to every other day we're going to aim for, but we'll see how these things roll along. Apologies for the delay on this one. We'll keep rolling on. We'll have the front row next as we move into the forwards. That's all coming up next. In the meantime, I hope you have a wonderful period of time until I see you next, which will probably be the day after tomorrow now. And in the meantime, rugby.